Hi. You're on mute, Ed. I don't know if you mean to be on mute. And hi, Jude.
Hi.
So we got Jeff, it looks like. Here's Jeff. So we have a quorum. We don't have Connor, who said he would be here. So we should wait. I think we're going to have Dave today, which is great. He was having technical difficulties the last couple of meetings, but he's figured out a way to join today. So that will be good. I'm just going to text Connor and see if he's joining. Actually, I'm going to call him. So my backyard looks white. There's not really any snow on it. It's just the way the light is because the snow didn't come yet.
It's coming.
I'm getting voicemail. Oh yeah, he says text him. Oh, so I'll text him. And then we'll just go ahead and get going. Whoops. Yay, okay, so anyway, we'll go ahead and get going. So the purpose of this call is, well, I do have an agenda. We'll run through the agenda. I will share my screen. Let me bring up the agenda. And then let me share my screen, should go right to it. I hope everybody's doing well today. Okay, so I didn't send out the agenda, but we'll just go through it real quick. I do keep a running list of my minute status. I've been keeping up for a while, but then I didn't send things for the last 2 meetings, but the output was the actual scenic overlay law itself. A real quick statement on laws in progress. Housing Oversight Task Force, we're getting close to getting another version of the law out to everybody. So that's a lot of thought's been given to what everybody said the first time around, and we're getting close to another issue. So that's coming soon. I keep looking, wellhead protection and telecommunications law that were passed in December. I keep looking, and they're not in the they're not in the E-code yet. So what I didn't know, and Ed, I didn't know whether you would know how long it actually takes. I know it was sent off, but I think it can take 3 months for it to show up.
Well, the E-code is separate from filing with the Secretary of State's office. It has to be filed within a certain number of days with the Office of the Secretary of State. I mean, Brian Hollander and I drove those 89 zoning law ourselves to the Albany and make sure the Secretary of State had it. Now there's a webmaster that controls putting.
Oh, hang on, this is Connor. Hang on. Hey Connor, how you doing? Oh, you're kidding. Okay. Oh dear. Hang on. I seem to have missed that. Hang on. Well, I'm glad I said, where are you? Hang on, participants 5, waiting room 1 and there you are. so thank you. So good. Okay, let's see you soon. In the waiting room, by gosh. Connor, where the heck are you? I'm in the waiting room. So there we go. I'm glad we have you, Connor. We're just getting going. So Ed, so getting back to the stuff filing though. So Ed, I know that Jackie Early sent them to the Secretary of State. And then, do you know, I can ask Bill or find out, I guess, the process once they go to the Secretary of State, does it get to E-code automatically, or is there a way I can verify Secretary of State got it, or what should I do to make sure it got where it needed to go?
Our code is handled, the Woodstock website's handled by a webmaster. They have to place it into they have to copy the law and paste it in.
Well, but I don't think so, because if we go to E-code is handled by somebody else, I think.
Well, then that's the person to get in touch with.
Okay, I'll have to ask about that, because, I'm in E-code here, and I'm just going to click on code and see it. Because if I get into E-code, it's a whole map of the United States. Then you pick New York, and then you get New York, you get a list of all the towns. You click Woodstock, you get into the E-code, and this is E-code. But
No.
Yeah, but every law is governed by the town that it promulgates the law. So the state can't do anything till the town introduces the law.
Can we move beyond this?
Secretary
This is part of our meeting. I have a limited time. I'd like to
yeah,
get to
okay, so we'll move on for this.
whether or not something's been filed with the state.
Okay, I'll do more investigation. And Jeff, you're right, and I know your time is limited, because I know you and I both have a 6:30 meeting, so
Yeah.
we'll go. Okay, so the topic of this meeting. So my only point of bringing this up is that I am checking to find out whether these laws show up where they belong. They didn't yet, and I'll do some more digging to figure out how are they going to show up where they belong. So that being said, work session to review the WC input to the draft document, zoning law scenic overlay. So this is the reason why we're here is, there we go. So the document that we have here that has yellow, and I did send it to everybody. The point is, as we know, the WEC came to our last meeting, and at our last meeting, they went through a document. They sent us 3 documents. One was Chris Compton's updates. One was Arlene Weissman's updates. One was updates where the whole WEC kind of consolidated some stuff. And we talked about the consolidated document at our last meeting, but then Ed and Connor and I met, and we looked at Arlene's list, Chris's list, and the consolidated document, and we made some adjustments to our law because of that. That's what's in yellow. So everything in red is the red line from the current law, but the yellow is what changed since we last reviewed it in the meeting. You all have seen this because I sent it to you. But my hope of this meeting is to skim through everything. We didn't make any appreciable changes because things that the WC asked for, it was kind of a wording here or there. And we said, well, if their wording is better, we'll add it there. But anyway, we'll just go through it. The goal here is to go through it. Ed, Connor, and I are very familiar with this. This is really, I think, Jude and Jeff looking at it. And if everybody nods their head and says, yep, it's good to go, then it's good to go to the town board. If we think it needs more, but that's the point of this is the goal is to get through it. So we know, is it ready for town board or is it not? So all that being said, my thought was we just go through section by section and here we go. So unless anybody has any issue with that approach, we're off to the races. We'll just have everybody start out by reading item B. So description of overlay districts is where this would go. And this is the new description.
Okay, I just have a question here because it says that some properties that were below 1,200 feet, how are those going to be determined?
I think it's on a map. Is that correct?
The zoning committee is a 1989 zoning committee, worked with Barry Benape, our map maker, and we figured out various properties in the southern part of Woodstock that we felt, being on a mountaintop, were justified to be in the scenic overlay.
Okay, so that's
two or
not,
three.
it's nothing. Sorry, I was gonna say it's nothing new.
No.
Okay, that's all then.
It's just a clarification, so it's called out, but it's been there. Yeah.
Right, got you, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions with paragraph in B, this first paragraph?
No.
Okay. And then we also added, one of the things the WEC brought up was that we should be more clear about if we're making rules for things that you can't see, because the scenic overlays, you want to protect what you can see from other places. But if we have laws of protecting things that you can't see, why? And that's why we add this last phrase, to protect the environmentally sensitive lands. So that kind of answered the question they had, is, how come you're doing some stuff that you can't see? So that answers that. I don't know if we need, you can skim the first paragraph if you want, nothing changed there, as you can see. So we'd already defined this. First thing is, we just said it's defined in 268. Instead of saying what it's defined by and repeating all those words, we just, as defined in the previous section. That's what we did there. And we also, let me look here, because so some of this is in 260-66. We talked about recreational development. So this was a change here, is instead of talking about saying excluding decks and pools here, we've included that in a bigger list, saying are to be discouraged. Recreational development, for example, decks, swimming pools, courts for sporting, are to be discouraged, limited scope, or denied. So that we made a clarification of adding more things to the list besides decks and pools.
Discouraged is not a useful word. It doesn't mean anything in law. I can discourage lots of things, doesn't mean they can be stopped doing, never can stop doing it.
Well, I guess we're thinking, because they're in the SUP.
I have no problem removing it, because saying that it needs to be limited in scope or denies completely opens the field for what we're trying to impart. So I don't mind taking it out.
I just can't, doesn't make sense to be saying, oh, I'm discouraging you from doing that. Like, it doesn't mean anything.
Okay,
So,
well, so we say, so off it goes. So limited scope or denied. So that's, are you happier with that, Jeff?
I feel like I am. So thank you, Jeff.
And I'm going to do a save, because I always do a save. I always want to make sure I keep track of what we had and what we have next. So let me do this. This is the 27th. We're on to version 10. There we go. All righty.
Double digits.
We've spent a lot of time on this line. That's just since you guys handed it over to us. Yes.
so just more, just it's wording stuff. Are to be limited in scope and may be denied at the discretion instead of or denied. That says they're limited or they are denied. Right? That's only two choices. Is that? I'm not sure what we want there, but
Sure.
is that okay, Connor? Does that
I mean,
work?
yeah, I mean, ultimately the answer is yes. I think everything should be limited in scope to its environmental, feasibility. But that being said, if this, I think this is fine.
Okay. It's just wording. I think the intent's the same for all of us. He's trying to make it. Yeah.
No, this makes sense. I see it.
Okay. And any other change to what we can see on the screen right here?
No.
Okay, Jeff, you good?
I'm good so far. Yep.
Yeah. And you two are the main two, because Connor and Ed and I worked on this. We added all the yellow. so it's mostly Jeff and Jude. And this is just clarification, section, block, and lot.
Are you guys hearing my cat meow all the time?
I know, but I saw her tail. She had a very nice tail.
Okay.
She walked across the screen and there was her tail. I thought it was my cat at first. It's like, where's my cat? And it was your cat.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if Jeff, if you have a moment to, I don't want to go forward till you and Jude are both okay.
That last paragraph is just, it's awkward wording. I'm okay with it, but it's just kind of backwards.
This one here?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you thinking? So it says start with whenever.
It could just be whenever an application for a building permit or special use permit respectively is submitted by a property owner, the zoning enforcement officer, the building department, or the planning board will determine. Wouldn't
Yeah,
that
that
make more
makes sense.
It's just a little, it's not a difference in meaning, it's just a little awkward. Not a biggie.
Well, let me do it and see how it looks.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
The property owner, the.
I have another wording thing.
Go ahead.
When you done? You ready?
Yes.
Can we merge paragraphs 2 and 3? Because they're really relating to the same thing.
Ensure compliance. Let me just take it.
Where-
Oh, 2 and 3.
Where is
The
this?
assessor.
The
This
assessor
and
and the
this?
zoning the assessor and the zoning enforcement officer.
Yeah, and then I think if you just make that next paragraph come up, like just not make it in a paragraph, just
The zoning
Yeah,
enforcement
but it's
officer.
a separate subject. You know,
Yeah, I think I might rather see it be different because here's what the assessor's got
you
to
got an
do.
assessor and the ZEA
and then
and
the
the
Z-
GEOs. So
well,
it
okay,
just-
I mean,
it makes it more easy for a quick person reading this thing to analyze the difference, you know. That's the
there-
definition. When you have a new idea, you start a new paragraph, and this is a new idea, a new.
it's in my reading, it's not a new idea. It's a continuation of the same idea. The idea is the assessor notifies the zoning enforcement officer, then the zoning enforcement officer notifies the property owner. That to me is one continuous idea.
Yeah.
It is, but I in this case, I would say keep it because if I'm the assessor, I'll easily find my to do by looking at the paragraph that starts with the assessor. If I'm the ZEO, I'll easily find my to do by looking at the paragraph that starts with the ZEO. So I think that it's more usable to the people who need to use it being split.
I agree. The last thing is that last paragraph that we changed, I think you have to remove respectively.
Whenever an application for building permit special use is, so the respectively comes at the end then.
If you need it at all, I don't think it.
Okay, well then, but because if it's the building permit, then you get something from the CEO or the building department.
Right,
If it's a
right.
special use permit, it goes to the planning board.
right.
So respectively, I'm gonna move it, but I can still get rid of it if needed.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say,
Okay.
okay, because an application for the building permit special use permit is submitted by the property owner, the CEO, the building department, or the planning board respectively. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because building, okay, so you're
I
good.
don't think you need the paragraph after special use permit. I'm sorry, the comma. I don't think you need the comma after the special use permit.
Right.
Oh, good, thank you. Okay, whenever application for building permit or special use permit is submitted by the property owner, effectively. Okay. Anything else for what you see before we get to 66? Okay. Now, one point of confusion I have that we didn't really answer when Ed and Connor and I met, although maybe Ed, you did answer it and I was just confused, but I wasn't quite sure. 260-66 is standards within scenic overlay, and 260-36 is standards for development within scenic overlay. And I actually don't know what the difference is between standards for development and standards, because they both have to do with development. So one of the questions the WEC did ask is, how come we got two sections here? I don't really know. It's just they've always been there, so we got them. But they both talk. This standards talks about development as well, and it is possible to take out a section and just say, hey, this is a blank section. But we can still.
I don't remember what we ended up saying about that, but I mean, just kind of like we were talking about separating the lines for the assessor versus the zoning enforcement officer. I could see there being merit in having what seems to be a separate section in the beginning, which outlines special sections forthcoming.
Well, if we said something like overview of standards, if we said this is the overview of standards and then the details in 66, I'd understand it better. But they seem like they're both standards. Is that?
No,
is that-
I don't disagree at all. No, I think that's fair.
Let's fix the typo.
But that's just me at a glance.
If we say this, Okay, so if we say this is the overview of standards, I am happier about that. And I am gonna try to get the same font here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that kind of clarifies overview of standards, and then the other one is standards of development. So, so thank you for that. That helps me.
You just wipe them off and on his face.
Wipe the what? Oh, you're not talking to me. Sorry. So, alrighty. So we're now we're
Sorry, that
in.
was my dog. I'm so sorry about that.
I remember when your dog was a pup, but we don't want to digress because I know Jeff's got to get going. So we're starting with the first paragraph here.
You've got that same line in there that.
Oh,
Jeff-
get rid of the discouraged, right? Or to be limited in scope. Or may be denied. Get out the comma. Thank you. Good catch.
And this is reiterating the same thing. So I think
Right.
this may be the only discouraged left. I hope.
Well, we got, yeah, hopefully. We'll see.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay, Jeff, let us know when you're good.
I'm good.
Okay. So scrolling up. I just keep this all here, just even, yeah, instead of just going to the yellow, I'll just,
There's a discouragement.
what about discouragement? Do we find it again?
Indeed.
In the, oh, the pressure, discourage or prohibit. Well, the thing about, yeah, and I hear you. Well, I guess, well, first of all, if something can be discouraged, the planning board can say we're discouraging it now. Because this requires a special use permit. So I guess I'm not a believer that the word discourage has to go away every time it's used, because it's in front of the planning board. The planning board is deciding whether something is okay. And the planning board, this says the planning board can discourage something if they want to do it. I hear what you're saying, Jeff, it's the law thing. If this was a permitted use and it said you should discourage it, then the applicants, the applicant's just going to go do what they want. But this is in front of the planning board, and because we say, prohibition of development along and or projecting above ridge lines, and discouragement or prohibition of development at other visually prominent locations. I mean, but this is a consensus group. If we want to get rid of, if we want to say prohibit this,
Could it say a limitation rather than
or
discourage?
just like we said before, limit.
Limitation.
Yeah, we said a limit in scope.
Limited in scope. Yeah, I mean, that's a good.
And
Limitation or prohibition of development.
let me just see how I want to read the words before. The prohibition of development shall include the following measures: prohibition of development and the limitation.
Yeah, limitation's better.
Yeah, I like that.
Got it.
Limitation's actually something that you can do, whereas discouragement doesn't sound like it's something you can, it has meaning.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we happy with what we see on the page?
Yes.
Well, I heard yes, Jude,
Yes.
and Jeff.
Let me just finish reading D again.
No, go for it. No, yeah, this is like a final review. Oh, David Menzies admit from the waiting room. Wow, we're doing great.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Okay. Let me just see. Let's say hello to David. Oh, he's still joining. Okay, let me come back down here. So we were at G.
This particular cat was found lost in the scenic overlay. Speaking of scenic overlays, he's being rehabbed now. He's getting doing a lot better.
So you have no idea how old your kitty is?
No. We've had him
Okay.
for 4 days, and he's put on hopefully about a pound, because he was less than 7 pounds, less than 6 pounds.
Wow. Wow. I'm glad he's got a good home.
Mhm.
So, okay. Well, anyway, welcome, David. We're glad you're here. We're doing the final review of the scenic overlay law. So we're on page 3. And the font, until I accept the changes that are redlined, I was not able to get the pagination right, because every time I try to grab this to move the indent where it belongs, it doesn't give me a choice of doing that. It just says, oh, do you want to accept the change? And no, I didn't. So that's why the indent's just going to be off until we can accept the change and then fix it.
And I like what we're trying to put here. I don't know how enforceable
You're talking about all the red or the yellow?
the red at this point, the whole non-essential, and who determines non-essential?
Well,
And
it's defined in here. Somewhere.
Non-essential tree cutting shall be understood to mean trees having no fundamental impact on the buildability of the lot, the personal safety of the owners or visitors to the property, or the safety of existing structures. That's somewhat subjective too. I mean, by that definition, I could cut down, 100-foot tree that's 50 feet from my house. Right? Because I think it could fall on my house and hurt me.
Sure.
So I don't know a better way to do this. I'm just saying I don't like subjective things. And I don't know how enforceable subjective things are.
Well, that's what courts are for. And to give the planning board some leeway in making interpretations in the scenic overlay is okay with me. And there are so many qualifiers in these descriptions that if somebody really wants to fight it, they'll have grounds to do that. But this will allow the planning board, as the steward of the scenic overlay, to make sure that some not inspecific, but something not so specific is nevertheless allowed into the law. I guess that's what I'm saying. And it gives the planning board some power and strength.
I like that.
It also just goes ahead prior to that and the page before, right, that's already in red, giving examples of, not prohibited, but activities to be avoided. And the understanding there is that violating those or something else that is a little less specified under the definition of non-essential, again, like they said, empowers the planning board, but also, I think in a way fine tunes what was already a little bit of the too wide of a net.
What I'm trying to say, sorry, go ahead, Jude, you go first.
No, I was just going to say, I like this, that the initial scope of the project should not be considered. I'm not sure essential is the right word, but I do like the sentiment of that scaling down the development should be given priority. I think that's important to be able to say, no, you can't have your 10,000 square foot house here because it's going to be too much of an impact. I like that was added in.
I guess my concern is that someone's going to hire a very expensive, very good lawyer, and it's going to beat the town on a section 78 by saying, I feel this is essential, and you can't prove it's not essential because it's a subjective thing. To me, it's more powerful and more enforceable if we give a very clear definition that essential must mean a tree. Sorry, I'm being attacked by a cat. That essential must be like anything further than, say, 25 feet from a structure is not essential. Meaning cannot be cut, however I say that. So something very clear, like what that means, instead of saying, having a totally subjective word like essential.
But remember that, again, this is for, in a case of a special use permit, we're giving guidance to the planning board who can say no. We've given this guidance to the planning board and moved the decision making to the planning board to say what's what here. So
And again, non-essential is a term we're assigning meaning to in this context.
yeah,
So
I gotta go to mute
I
for a
don't
second.
think-
My doctor's office is calling.
and again, we've shown this to the planning board and looked at this specifically, asking them if this is, that gives them essentially the parameters they would need to essentially sculpt and work a site plan. But again, all this is considering that the applicant has not already violated the site.
That's what I'm trying to get to, is like, yes, obviously, if they work with the planning board can determine what it is and they can agree to it and everyone's going to be happy. But when another oranger comes along and he clear cuts the land, he can just hire a high-paid lawyer and say it's all essential that I cleared it all. And what do we do? I mean,
I don't. Basically, the only way I can answer is this is one of those things where I think being a little more general will ultimately help more than it will hurt. I mean, I think there are a lot of times where if we try to get too specific, I mean, there are laws that allow you to cut a certain amount, but we've already established it can't be in ridge lines. It can't be above a certain, elevation within a visually prominent area. Outside of that, we've stipulated the health of trees, or like severely pest damaged trees. Like these are reasons, to go and get a tree cut down, and we can't stop someone from doing that. But if an oranger comes along and clear cuts, that's set apart in its own. And to prove that taking down a bunch of trees in a visually prominent area that weren't right on top of your house, I mean, like there's no foot amount I think we could assign to that, because I mean, trees grow really tall. I've had to take down several trees on my property that were way overdue for getting cut down, but they were all dead. And luckily, at least so far, they've been on the other side of the mountain. They're not visually, they don't do anything for the visuals.
I mean, I think we all want the same thing. It's just a matter of what is the most enforceable. So I'm trying to come up with it. What's the most enforceable from a legal point of view? And I'm not a lawyer, so if a lawyer doesn't care, then I'm fine with this.
Yeah, maybe that has to be looked at by somebody else. Just regarding buildability of a lot, adhering to the initial scope of the project shall not be considered mandatory. Is that rather than essential? Here we go with essential again.
I mean, again, it's in relating back to essential and non-essential in this
Right. Okay.
specific context rather than a greater definition. So my thinking was to keep the vernacular the same, but with that in mind, what do you think?
Well, I guess one question that I might have on that is regarding buildability of a lot. Do we really need this phrase here? Maybe we could just say regarding buildability of a lot, scaling down the development should be given priority over moving trees. I guess I'm not quite sure if I totally understand what this says. Adhering to the initial scope of the project should not be considered essential, because we've already said scaling down the development. Maybe that's a phrase that's not needed.
Sure. I mean,
So I'm saying maybe that
it's
phrase.
nothing that scaling down development wouldn't cover. So yeah.
Okay, I think that's better. Yeah.
Okay, and that gets rid of one more essential.
Sure.
Okay, regarding the buildability of a lot, scaling down the development should be given priority over moving trees. And that's nice and simple and easy to understand.
Love it.
Good.
Yay, we're getting better. Whoops, we're just doing a save here. There we go. Okay, anything else about G? I'll scroll up to H in a moment. Anything else on G?
No.
Jeff, are you, I know
I'm
you weren't
good. I
totally
mean,
happy.
You know, we agree what it wants to say. It's just a matter of what's most enforceable, and I'm gonna leave that to a lawyer to decide. That's not up to me.
Okay, and I do think because this is an SUP, it's going in front of the planning board and it's given direction to the planning board. I think we're giving the planning board something that they can work with. And
Mhm.
I'm guessing Connor does too, because he used to be on the planning board. Anyway, so we're on to H and G.
I'm not sure what that means, verified by a planning board member.
I think meaning a planning board member would need to be if the applicant does a balloon test, a planning board member has to verify the results. They got to go look at different vantage points and say, hey, can I see the balloons? So it just says somebody from the planning board's got to okay that this test was done and that things are good. That's my answer, but Connor, you would know better.
Yeah, you know, it's to assign a site rep to one of the to go and check out the property. Usually you have to do that anyway for anything of a certain caliber. So that same site rep would probably be in charge of this.
Got you.
Are we good to move forward?
I'm good.
You good? And Jude, you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Almost
So-
there.
Yeah, yeah, we are almost there. Okay, C. Here's where we introduce fines.
According to plan just feels almost redundant in that yellow sentence, but other than that, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Planning or implementation sort of beg according to plan, but I don't know. That's it really.
Well, I think that I think our point was saying according to plan is the applicant needs to have a plan in place. And they've got to be planning what they're going to do, and they have to be implementing what they're going to do. They have to do both things according to plan. So they get this 2-week remediation, and during these 2 weeks, there's a plan that says when are you going to have your plan for remediation, and the plan that says when you're going to do the implementation of remediation. So I think according to plan actually is necessary. It sounds redundant, but you have a planning phase and implementation phase, and each of those has a plan.
I guess that was all then.
Yeah, so I think that's
It's
okay.
awkward to me, but so here's, I'm trying to understand the scenario. So someone does this, you know, they cut too many trees. They come up with a plan to remediate it, which stops the fines, right? The plan is, you know, X, Y, and Z. Then they start to do that, then the guy, you know, the contractor doing it goes on vacation for a month or disappears, as happens to contractors in Woodstock a lot. So it doesn't go according to plan. Then what happens next?
The applicant would be contacted. At
Well,
the end of that, and contact with the applicant ceases, and the applicant could be a representative, you know, of any stripe, but someone to sort of keep things on track. So contractor goes missing, the applicant reaches out, this becomes part of the remediation plan. They have to hire another person. Now, and just
Okay,
like just to address one other quick thing you said was fees could stop at any time. I mean, fees don't even have to happen if someone's there the whole time and put up enough escrow to fix a situation. Fees are totally
Okay,
off.
that's fine. That wasn't the point. I was just trying to understand the process. Can we change it to be applicant or designated representative?
Sure.
Applicant. Well, it's really applicant and their designated. If both of them are unavailable, right? If one or the other is unavailable, it's okay, but the applicant
Yeah.
and their designated representative. I gotta turn my light on, it's getting dark in here.
Ceases due, so I would say contact with the applicant ceases due to applicant, comma, or assigned
Designated.
applicant and or assigned representative.
And available. And the reason why I'm not putting the or is because it's not really an or statement.
No,
If
it
both
is
the
an
app-
or statement. It is an or
No,
statement.
no,
There's
let
no
me
way you
finish
put it,
my-
you have to contact both.
My turn, hang on, my turn.
Sorry.
Let me just say what I'm thinking, then you can tell me I'm wrong. Okay, so in my view, if both the applicant and their assigned representative are both unavailable, then you have a problem. If either the applicant or their assigned representative is available, then you got somebody that you're working with. The issue, in my opinion, happens when the applicant and their unassigned representative are both unavailable. Then you have an issue because you got an applicant that's kind of like not able to reach them. But if you can reach either them or their assigned representative, then you got somebody you can work with to keep the project
Yeah.
going.
I see what you're saying. I mean, the only thing is usually when you have an assigned representative, you just don't see the applicant. So it's usually and or, but I leave it to everyone else. I'm fine with either.
But if you say or, then you're saying if the applicant disappears and goes to Europe for 6 months, but they've left the representative who's got full account, full control over everything. But you're saying if the applicant's unavailable, then you're still gonna find them, even though you still got somebody to work with. I think that's unfair. If they're both unavailable, then you got a problem. If the applicant or their delegate, if either one is there, you got somebody you're working with. So we're not going to go find the applicant because they were responsible.
And honestly, maybe the thing for me is something about it presumes that there would be an assigned representative, but maybe it doesn't. Like I said, I'm fine with it. So
can I,
Yeah, I think it's a matter of interpretation of how that's read.
I see what Laura's saying, but I'm uncomfortable with is not happening. Can we say is not progressing?
We're planning.
Yeah.
Well, but again, you're saying if the planning or implementation according to plan is not happening, you have a plan. You've got a plan. If the progress is not happening according to plan, then you have a problem. So because we've said we're planning implementation progress, I'll put the word progress here. According to plan, because you're expecting with the plan and implementation plan, you're expecting progress over time. And if you're not getting the progress, if the progress is not happening, then contact it. Yeah. And you can't get a hold of anybody.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Jody. I don't like the word is not happening. It could be happening really, really, really slowly.
But it says, but you've got a plan that says how fast it's supposed to happen. And I gotta get this. I gotta go on mute for just a second.
Do you have a better way to state that, Jeff?
I'm trying to come up with one.
Yeah.
Any 2-week period during remediation with planning or implementation is not following the plan.
Is not progressing
What
according to plan.
if we said, or any 2-week period during remediation where planning or implementation
Well, let me try.
is not progressing, or
Yeah,
I've lost it, but
well, hang on. Let me just do this and see if people like this better.
Better.
That's what I thought I just heard.
I think it's better.
I like it better too. I like it better.
or is found insufficient.
Well, but the thing is, you build a plan and somebody agreed to the plan. If the
Yeah.
plan is insufficient, then somebody had needed to say so. So it's kind of not fair to have somebody say, oh yeah, I agree with your plan, and then come back 2 months later and say, your plan is insufficient, now we're going to fine you. The plan needed to be agreed upon.
All right, no, I like the way it reads. It's fine.
Okay, and here's where this is where my or thing comes in, and this is where I think my suggestion. In contact with the applicant, he says due to applicant parenthesis or assigned representative closed parenthesis is unavailable. In other words, I want the or to be applicant or the representative to be attached. It's,
Well, let me just think about that. I'm just kind of thinking, I think we're agreeing on the intent, and I'm just trying to think through if I agree on that as a solution.
I think I agree with it, because if you assign a representative, that person is your stand-in, and it shouldn't be incumbent upon the town to then go further out of their way to remediate an already bad situation by then having to figure out how to get in touch with the applicant before we decide we've made enough effort to turn on fines again.
yeah, I like that better. And it's, you have a typo there, that was all.
Yeah, I'm just kind of still thinking about how to, because again, if the applicant went off to Europe and they've got their right-hand person is available, then,
Then that's fine.
well, yeah, but we say if you're
I
the
think
applicant,
I think what the more important thing that just putting this in there does is it offers the opportunity to have someone come in your stead and just say that, you know, there is
Mhm.
an avenue for you to not be present for these things if you have to not be present for them.
well, but see, the or takes that away. The and
No,
says, if you don't have the applicant and you don't have the assigned representative, then you got a problem. This says if the applicant or their person is unavailable, if either one of them is unavailable, then you're going to go find the applicant. And I think that's not what we mean to say.
The or applies to the subject, not to who's available or not available. It's the applicant or someone else. It's one or the other or not of it. It's the applicant. I mean, I see what you're saying from a logic point of view, but it's not an equation. It's the applicant or, like, if I'm gonna go to Europe, right? If I'm gonna do this project, right, then how do I explain it? If an applicant assigns someone to the town saying, this is my assigned representative, that is the responsible person, not the applicant anymore.
Oh, okay. Or applicant, or they're assigned. I don't know if we want to say the assigned responsible person, but that's kind of what you mean. Do the
That's fine.
applicant or
That's fine.
or their delegate or their delegate or their
Delegated as responsible
or
or
their
delegated representative.
I really think their assigned representative is totally fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you just need an apostrophe with applicants.
well, I'm still, you know, forgive me for working in the computer industry, but there's an and an or are two different things. And means they both had to be true, or is if either is true, then the thing happens. And finding somebody, if either of these things true, I'm still having a huge issue with or, and we haven't fixed the words yet, but we need to do something because it's.
So here's the question is,
It's logic, right?
if this person has an assigned representative, then they're no longer the primary contact. If you can afford to have a assigned representative, that person who is representing your interests, you're giving them responsibility for this.
Right.
I don't see how it's incumbent upon us as a town to even facilitate having, I mean, it's not that it's unreasonable, but we could have multiple contacts and have this still be true. Like here you have all of our numbers, but the opportunity is there. If we run through their contact sheet, you know, whatever our standardized form for this looks like, and they put that number on there, if they
So
spend 2 weeks not picking up the phone, then that's what this is for.
In computerese, Laura, what we're saying is you evaluate the or before you evaluate anything else. It's an A or B. You evaluate the A or B and figure out whether it's A in this case or B in this case. It's not a combination of one or the other. So the
Well,
evaluation of applicant or assigned representative goes
Yeah.
first.
Right.
And then whoever that is the one that needs to be contacted. So that's as computer-y as I can get to English.
I think, yeah, you're looking at Boolean logic, right, Laura? And I understand what you're saying, but I I'm not sure how it works here.
Okay, well, so I like it better. I reworked it. Let me reread it myself. And the or, because I'm trying to be more clear.
You need to take off the unavailability at the end, because I think you've added it.
They'll be, I have it twice. Yeah, okay, thank you. Okay, so let me just read it and see whether I like it, and you all can read it and see whether you like it. Oh, and I like this better because its contact with the applicant ceases.
Mhm.
Yeah, due to unavailable of them or the representative to whom the applicant has assigned lead responsibility.
Okay. I think
I'm
we're all
totally
good.
fine with that.
Yeah,
Yep.
me too.
Okay, yay. Should I move forward from this paragraph?
Yes.
Okay. So no, and my other thought I may want to loop back on is it might be nice to talk about C includes fines, because poof, here's a fine. And it might be nice to say these are prohibited with fines identified or something. It might be nice so that you don't have to read the whole paragraph and hidden in the middle of it is the fine. It'd be nice to let you know you're about to talk about the fines. So I'm going to want to loop back on that thought, but we'll
You
just
could just insert are prohibited and carry fines.
these are
Open uses and prohibitives.
yeah, and carry
Or may
fines
carry fines.
and may carry fines. Okay, hang on. Carry fines as specified.
How about, what if you did it? What if you put a period after scenic overlay district and just said a violation of these uses and activities can carry fines?
Violations. I just say
Violations, oh yeah, violations may carry fines.
okay.
Look at that.
Yay, so we got the word fines in there. Good. And that way somebody isn't, you know, if they're looking for fines, they can see it right in the header.
How about incur instead of carry?
May incur fines. Whoops. Okay, okay,
I like that. You see
Okay.
it, meaning that there's fines, it's clear.
okay. And then that way it's right in the header that people know here's where to look if they want to find out about fines. Okay. I'm happy with that. And I'm still, I'm looking a little bit, should find. And I know we're kind of repeating non-essential, but people don't have to remember what it means. And then we didn't put everything in here. And we say go back to the other item, but we put the basics in there. Let me just go back to the top for a minute because that personal wireless. Yeah. Okay. Now it's interesting though, we do say the fine uses and activities are prohibited, and we say small wireless service, personal wireless service, but we don't then say anything about fines for that. We just say it's prohibited.
Well, this said, it's say maybe, maybe, we don't.
All right, okay. Okay, so we didn't
have to be.
My only point is we didn't set any fines if somebody did put a personal wireless service facility in there.
I don't think there's a fine. I think we just tear it down.
Okay, there you go.
Or
Okay.
blow it up.
Yeah.
Fines or explosive devices may be incurred.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to go down and see it. I think this is the last thing. Yes. Yeah. D, this is the last thing.
So my question about this is, I don't know if the zoning enforcement officer has the authority to require escrow. Planning board does. I don't know that the CEO does.
That's a good question.
Pretty sure.
Maybe we can, I mean, I imagine this is gonna get a pass through a lawyer, once we, hear back from the town board. I'd be curious to see if that's the case, because I thought the building department was able to levy escrow and fines and stuff, but I'm not sure now. I know,
Fine.
Well, that wouldn't be in the scenic overlay district language. It would be in the other zoning language. You have to isolate that specific section that deals with the powers given and either add or clarify or determine that it's covered, but it's not in the scenic overlay district.
Yeah.
It could refer here to a section of the zoning law allowing an escrow amount, but until we do that research.
Well,
we-
I do know the planning board can do it, so
Yeah.
if it were to remove the ZEO, that's
Well-
fine, but if we
well,
leave
wait.
it in, we can just,
Well, that could be something that could be added to that section, right?
But the issue that I see though is it says these implemented that in case of severe violations, and the planning board is not enforcement. So I think that zoning ZEO is enforcement. So just to take the ZEO out, I think is not good because the ZEO is enforcement, the planning board is not enforcement. And this is talking about violations, who's enforcement, not the planning board. So I think we have to leave the ZEO in there, and it's a valid question, can they do escrow funds? But I think we need to leave them.
Yeah, well, let's leave him in, but leave out the issue of escrow funds without further research.
So if there's some sort of severe violation, can't the ZEO just impose fines and those fines can be used to hire an arborist?
Well, that's a good question.
I don't know. I mean, I think what Ed is saying is correct. I don't know if the zoning law, where the zoning enforcement powers, if it says they can require escrow. So that's something to look at, I think.
I mean, we can just ask Bill, that's an easy enough,
Yeah.
not Bill, Butch. That's an easy enough change to make after, honestly, the town board sees it, because
Mhm.
Okay.
I imagine we're gonna get one more pass at this, and I'd be happy to call him on my own time if that helps. He's very
Mhm.
forthcoming.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Okay.
Whether ZRC questions whether a ZEO has the power to require. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. But the whole point is if we're going to hire an arborist to assess the value of the damage, you know, if it's going to be a fine, then we would need to have an idea of what the fine might be, and it would depend on the size of the issue. So escrow would be a nice way to do it if that can be done.
If the ZEO can't do it, then the planning board could do it, right? I mean, they could just
Yeah.
take responsibility.
But
Yeah.
but the planning board is not enforcement. We're talking about an enforcement issue here, I think. If there's a violation, somebody's got to go enforce the law, and enforcement is not the planning board.
Yeah, maybe, I mean, I'm sure the
Yeah.
ZEO could maybe recommend in that case, escrow, that's pretty casual.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, okay, well, we'll leave it like that, and I put a little comment, which may go away. I don't know if we're gonna keep the comment, but anyway. But, or should I just take the comment out, because maybe, we'll see what the lawyer says, because it's gonna go to the lawyer. So should I make the comment, or should we just see what the lawyer says when
See
they
what
get
the
it?
lawyer says.
Yeah,
Okay, all right, so that's kind of better. I'll
and
just-
the other sentence below is just clarifying, so.
Mhm.
I just want to delete the reject insertion. Oh, sorry. Oh, shoot, that was not intended. Let me just do backward. Actually, there should be a way to delete the. I'm just going to keep going back till I get rid of it altogether. Come on. There we go. Now we're back. Now we're back. And I
Yeah.
lost all the
Save it
sections.
now, if you, well, knock on wood, save it now.
Well, you can keep going back. Yeah, you can keep going back. I keep doing saves, but yeah, we're good. All right, so we're keeping this the way it is, just because I think the planning board doesn't do enforcement, and we're not sure if the ZEO can do escrow funds. But where are you going to get the money from the applicant to hire the arborist? So
Yeah, exactly.
and anyway, we'll just see what the lawyer says.
So, I mean, unless, does anyone want to review this more, or can we bring it to a vote?
Oh,
I make a motion, we bring it to a vote.
Wonderful.
Or
Second,
do we need a motion to bring it to a vote, or we just want to bring it to a vote?
Well, we just did, I guess.
So Ed made a motion to bring it to a vote. Hang on. So let me say, well, let me ask David, who's been very quiet there and hasn't really, I know you've been getting emails, but you've been having some technical difficulties. David, do you have any questions? You've been quiet through this. Anything on your mind?
You're on mute, Dave.
Yeah, and you're still on mute. He might be saying he's looking for the mute button. Yeah, I don't have a way to take you off mute, so you'll,
If you drag your mouse to the bottom left corner of the Zoom window, it should pop up.
Laura, I think if you click the asterisk.
There it is.
Oh, never
I
mind.
found it.
hey,
Yeah, I'm on board.
yay, well done. So Ed, what exactly was your motion? Your motion was to bring it to a vote.
Yeah,
And did somebody second Ed's motion?
I did.
Jude did. All in favor of the motion to bring it to a vote?
Aye.
Aye,
Yes.
I,
so pass. Okay. So what is the vote motion? So what is the motion that we're voting on?
Motion is to send it to the, what's the next step, Laura? I don't even
To the
know.
town board.
The next
Thank
step will
you.
be the town board. Send to town board.
As a recommendation from the ZRC for a change in the zoning laws.
Station by ZRC, hang on. See, as a change to the zoning law. Okay, so who made that motion?
I think Connor should make that motion.
Yeah, there you go, Connor. You like that, Connor?
So moved.
Who seconded that motion? Ed, did you want to second that? Oh, Jude,
I'll
Jude's got it.
second.
Let
Okay,
Ed do it.
I'll give it to Ed because, yeah, Ed and Connor did work that, so,
Yep.
I'll
Ed,
second it.
okay, Ed second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
yay,
Aye.
passed.
Yes.
Okay, so the only other thing that I do want to ask is, so we got a copy. I'll take out the yellow. I will send it back to the WEC. I'm not giving them another vote because, you know, we took their input. We did what we thought should be done with it. I will send them a copy that has the yellow in it. So I'll probably have a version 11 that has no yellow. So I'll send them the version 10 that has yellow. Version 11 will have no yellow, and that's what's going to go to the town board. And anyway, so if I do go back to, so my question is, if we at current, sticking with our regular schedule, we would have our next meeting in 2 weeks on Monday, March 13th. And instead of trying to discuss now what we do next, I would propose that we spend that meeting. We may have feedback from the board by then, I don't know. But my proposal would be that we spend that meeting talking about what we do next. So is that the date that we do want to meet? And do we want to take a breather after this? And I know Jeff and I are going to be really busy this month. I can tell you that. So if we did skip a meeting, we'd survive. Jeff and I would say, not to speak to Jeff, but anyway, but we can just keep on going in 2 weeks and start talking about what we want to do next. So whatever.
Well, I'd like to keep the possibility open that, of course, we'd have something from the board by then. But that being said, I'm fine with making it, a future forecast.
Well, the board is not going to meet before that because the board meets the second in March. It could be the second and the fourth Thursday, but the board will not be meeting before the 14th.
That's why did you want to meet before then? I mean, like I'm saying, even if we don't meet before then, I think, seeing if the board has something in terms of the scenic overlay and then forecasting what we do next sounds good to me.
So, okay, so we'll stick with the 13th. I predict we won't have much from the board. We might have some emails from them. But anyway, so we'll see. So stick with the 13th and we'll just discuss what we're working on next at that meeting.
Sounds good.
Is there anything else? Let me just make a note here. Next meeting, discuss.
Thank you, Ed and Connor.
Thank
Working
you.
together on this. And thank you, Laura. for-
Well, absolutely. Well, Ed and Connor were the anchor people, and
Well,
So-
Connor brought it up at the first meeting of our group. You know, it was Connor's ball all the way. I just, having had experience at writing these kinds of laws, I helped Connor and we interviewed.
Tremendously.
We got a lot of good input from members of the planning board. And so we just slowly put it together, and then Laura jumped in with a strong structure for the law, so it prevailed finally.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's one of the good things about a small committee.
Yes.
Yep, there you go. And we got it. We got it. Okay. All righty. That's it for topics for today. So we're going to have our next meeting in 2 weeks, and we're going to talk about decide what's next.
I love it. Motion
And,
to adjourn.
Oh yeah, Connor. Yeah, there you go. Do we have a second? Jude is you're right in there, Jude. Okay. All in favor.
Aye.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
No,
Enjoy the
thank you all
snow.
so much. This is incredible.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Hmm.